And the baby likes the water.
In their efforts to pass on their genes, Melinda and Sergio pursued dramatically different strategies.
I can't wait for the baby to come.
Like most men, Sergio has been constantly producing sperm since puberty.
Are you?
But Melinda created all her eggs when she looked like this, a fetus in her mother's womb. Within a couple of months, she created several million eggs. And then, the eggs began to die. At the age of 31, Melinda may only have a few thousand left. But that's okay, because inside an ovary, as opposed to a testicle, it's quality, not quantity, that counts. Every month, one of a woman's 2 ovaries selects an immature egg cell to lavish with attention. Hundreds of support cells tend the egg, feeding it until it grows fat. When it's ready, the whole entourage, the egg along with its helpers, oozes out of the ovary. Waiting for them is the open end of the fallopian tube, which leads to the uterus. Its tentacles capture the egg and pull it inside. The egg is swept along by muscular contractions of the tube, as well as the constant swaying of tiny cilia. The egg has everything it needs to start a new life, except for one thing: DNA from a sperm. And it has to get it fast. If the egg is not fertilized within a few hours, it will die. They are immediately in peril. The vagina is acidic, so the sperm must escape or die. They start to swim, at least some of them. Even in a healthy man, 60% of the sperm can be less than perfect. Like this one, with 2 tails. For these guys, the journey is over. But what about the rest? What are the chances that one tiny sperm will reach and fertilize an egg? Sperm are often portrayed as brave little warriors forging their way through hostile terrain to conquer the egg. Nothing could be further from the truth. For every challenge the sperm face, success is to a great extent controlled by the woman's body and even the egg itself. Take the sperm's first obstacle, the cervix, passageway to the uterus. Most of the time, it's locked shut, plugged with mucus that keeps bacteria and sperm out. But for just a few days a month, around ovulation, the mucus becomes watery and forms tiny channels that guide the sperm through. Arriving inside the uterus, the sperm are still about 6 inches away from their goal, at least a 2-day swim. But undulations of the uterine muscles propel the sperm into the fallopian tube within 30 minutes. Ready or not, once sperm and egg get together, they have their own agenda: to create a viable embryo. Their chances aren't great. It's estimated that more than 50% of all fertilized eggs fail to develop. If it's going to survive, the egg has a lot of work to do. First, it orders the zona to lock out all other sperm. And then the egg must finish meiosis, expelling half of its chromosomes into this tiny pouch called a polar body. With the door closed behind it, the single sperm already inside releases its precious cargo. The sperm's 23 chromosomes stretch out in the roomy, welcoming egg. The chromosomes of sperm and egg approach each other, and then the cell divides. Since the moment the sperm entered the egg, 24 hours have passed. All this time, the fertilized egg is moving down the fallopian tube toward the uterus. Every few hours, the cells divide. 4, 8, 16, gradually creating the building blocks needed to construct an embryo. On rare occasions, the tiny cluster of cells splits into two groups and creates two embryos, identical twins. But most of the time, the cells stick together. They must complete just the right number of cell divisions before they arrive in the uterus, about 5 days after fertilization. What started as a large single cell has divided into just over 100 much smaller cells. But they're still trapped within the hard shell of the zona. Now called a blastocyst, the bundle of cells must do two things to survive: break out of the zona and find a source of nourishment. At the beginning of the 6th day, it orchestrates an escape. It releases an enzyme that eats through the zona, and the ball of cells squeezes out. Free at last, the blastocyst lands on the blood-rich lining of the mother's uterus. It has just passed one hurdle, but is immediately presented with another. For in fact, it is now in very grave danger. Stripped of its protective coating, the blastocyst could be attacked by the mother's immune system as a foreign invader. White blood cells would swarm in to devour it. In its own self-defense, the ball of cells produces several chemicals that suppress the mother's immune system inside the uterus, in effect convincing the mother to treat it like a welcome guest. Then it is free to get to work. Searching for food and oxygen, cells from the blastocyst reach down and burrow into the surrounding tissue. Eventually, they pull the entire bundle down into the uterine lining. And sooner or later, the mother will notice.
Even